you're going to be at the right hand of God. Okay, just throwing something out. So that's believing and having faith. The looking ahead, it's like when I walked on the parallel bars when I was learning how to walk again, and after being paralyzed, and it took a lot. I mean, months and months and months. But most people look at where they're at on the parallel bar right here, and they used to have to wrap my right hand around it because my right hand's paralyzed to this day. It's still paralyzed. So they'd have to wrap my left hand could kind of grab it a little bit, and they follow you with a wheelchair, and somebody's in front of you in case you fall forward. But they only look right here. That's all they look at. I looked at the end of the bar. I looked down the road because that's where I want to go. I don't want to just go 1 inch. I want to go that 10 feet. So I think that's faith, that's hope, a little bit of hope, but that's faith and belief that you can do it. The other words, what were the other two words you said? How that worked together?
You discovered both, faith, belief, and hope.
Oh, okay. So I covered that. Yeah, I think that's it. It's kind of like, yeah, hope is good, but believing in faith and really having that it's going to work. It's kind of like, Chris, when you went to the rifle range, if you're shooting at 500 yards with iron sights, which we did, I mean, with M14s back in the day, it's like a lot of people just couldn't hit it because they didn't think they could. I hope I can get my windage set or my elevation, but yet, no, I know I'm going to hit that son of a gun. And within 2 clicks, you got it set. When you're working your dope, you can attain because you believe you can do it. Am I not correct on your aspect too?
Oh no, I totally agree. I totally agree. The only difference I have in the way that I kind of perceive those things is I have a slightly different order. Only because I perceive hope and belief to be weaker words than faith, right? And to me, faith is the ultimate culmination of it, and it's like you said, it's really hard to describe what the feeling of faith is in your body because it is a feeling, and it's a feeling of knowing, it's a feeling of certainty, and you can't say it's belief, because if you say it's belief, then you invite doubt, you invite the potential outcome that you don't want, and that's just not how it is, right? I see it, and so now I've only shot 600 yards iron sights twice in my military career. Thank you very much. And yeah, you have to have faith in the process. You have to have, and it's faith if you don't understand the process. You can still understand it and have it be faith, but then it's just now now you're one with the tool, right? And now I'm plinking. Which I'm sure you had guys that were shooting 600 easy. But yeah, that's the only thing I would add to what you had to say.
Well, I think I agree with your word on the word belief versus believing, because belief is like it still leaves area for doubt. Mm-hmm. I want to have the belief that this is going to happen. That's kind of like hope, actually, if you use it that term, versus, no, I believe in this 100%. End of doubt, end of story. So, but yeah, hope is on the low end. Believing is definitely several steps higher, but faith is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And see, with both y'all said that y'all didn't accept outcomes that people predicted. So you always kept the mindset that you were going to make it happen. See, so I look at that as you're removing limited beliefs. You are not accepting those. You're only accepting what you see right in front of you. Like you said, you wasn't looking beside you. You were looking where you wanted to go. And a lot of that, because I do study meditation, and that's what I tell people when I get them in that state, is I want you to look at where you want to go, nothing else. We're not looking at what can hold us back. We're not looking at any of that, just where we want to go. And I feel like once you get into that state, you're not letting anything give you that doubt. Because if you have the doubt, you're not going to try. It literally takes just trying. As small as it needs to be, or as big as it needs to be. You just start that process and you go where you're looking.
Well, that gets, Cassie, when you mentioned something a second ago about not looking off to the left or the right, or however you put it, that other things getting in your way. That's like a horse with the blinders on, because you're looking down the road, and it's not really tunnel vision. Tunnel vision is to me, is a different term. Focusing is a better term, especially for humans, at least as far as I see it. And it's
I call it mission focus, or and you can even translate it to purpose driven, where like and you're on an operation, or you're getting ready to go on an operation, and you know what you need to do, and everybody else knows what they need to do. And when you see something that needs picked up, or slack here, slack there, everybody just kind of jumps in, and the convoy keeps rolling.
Well, yeah, and I was going to add that earlier. You kind of just jumped on it. Is when you see that down the road, don't let those things bother you, because then that gets in your way, and that's what you just said is belief in the mission and stuff. And of course, that's like saying a battle plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned many years ago from a major that I knew that was a good person, and he didn't make it. But he said, you can have the best battle plans in the world, but when the battle begins, throw the damn plans out the window, because it doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a whole different thing too.
The first casualty of every battle is the plan.
Oh, yeah. It's that's on a corporate job I had that I really loved it. I've never had a job. Either I like what I do or I don't do it. I don't care. It's like, because if you got a job, that means you got to go to work, and then I don't like to go to work, so I just like to enjoy myself, And if you do that, and it's something that I think you also mentioned, Chris, earlier, was about money, and I'm not money driven. Never been money driven. I'm more driven to help people work, solve a problem, work up a solution for that problem, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then everything else comes along with it, whether it's accolades, awards, or money, or whatever. And too many people today, all they can concentrate is on the money. And that's where we've lost a lot from back 50s and 60s and 70s and even in the 80s, when we had like communities and we had people that cared about each other. And then now it's just been, how much do you make? How much can you make? How much?
There's no more honor. You know what I mean? No. Like there are people, and I won't give specifics about how I feel, but there are jobs out there that are very well paying, extremely well paying, and I think they're horrible. Why would I want to sell you that product to make you that money, and perpetuate this system that doesn't serve anybody? Oh, because the money's good. Oh, great. And so we do that over here, we do that over there, we do that, and next thing you know, the whole system is corrupted.
Yeah.
And instead of doing things because how did America get built? Because a bunch of guys wanted to do really cool stuff. Andrew Carnegie didn't build the railroad because he just woke up one day and decided, I like trains. No, he was into steel. He came to railroads by a long way, and he's like, why am I paying these suckers to do this when I could do it myself? And it was all about being the best that they could possibly be. And again, that's a different topic maybe, but
that gets into another topic too. And I was going to say, a lot of it is when you mentioned the word sales or selling and stuff, and I learned, oh my God, many years ago, and I've been saying it for probably 45 years or longer, maybe 50, and it's in my book. And I just found out that Theodore Roosevelt was here about 2 weeks ago, I found out he was the one that originally said it, but I never knew he even said it. And that is, people don't care how much you know until you know how much you care. And so if I'm trying to come and sell Chris this new parachute, instead of being I can't think of the term we used to use for the round ones, and now I want a glider chute that's going to let you steer and move around. Okay, well, I want to know what. Tell me about what kind of jumps you're doing. Where are you trying to land? What are you trying to do? What do you now? The round ones may be better for what you need. So how can I sell you something, or how would you want to buy it from me if I didn't understand or follow where you're at and what you're trying to do? Now that opens the door for you to say, "Oh, I see what you're trying to do," and it gives me the benefit to give you the better product.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in that talking about sales, I mean, that to me is the difference between hard selling and, I guess, maybe like normal selling, or whatever you want to, whatever you call it. Because I've done sales before, and I'm not the hard seller. I want to provide you the information, and I want to help you make the decision. And if it's not the decision for you, then that's great. I get fed all those videos of all the script guys. They've got all these master scripts, and never take no for an answer. And I get the phone calls, and I light them up, because you can tell that they don't care. You can tell that they're on a script, and
Yep.
When they're playing a game that you're not playing, and then you can pick up that they're playing a game, they lost. And oh, hey, by the way, you were trying to sell me something and get my money, so you failed epically.
Yeah, it's I mean, my corporate was with GTE, which has been gone way before, I think, before you were even born, Chris. And GTE was the fifth largest corporation in America. And I worked in the Yellow Page division, and in the Yellow Pages, it's like going back to that. If you're an appliance person and you don't have a very good program, and I'm able to sell you or get you to understand why you should have a better program. It's like if Cassidy's washing machine breaks down and she needs a repair, does she look back in those days under washing machines, or does she look under appliance repair? Well, that's a 50-50. You never know. And so tell me, you try to find out about the person, but give them the best program that you can for their business, because they have to depend on that program to get the end user. So if you're the appliance person and Cassidy's your client or the customer, the lady that lives down the street, she's going to look at your ad that we provided for you. So it ends up being about the client. Mm-hmm. And and if you at it like that, like you just said, and not just try to pound something up there, where, that's useless. And I watched people lie, cheat, and steal, and that's why I did a lot of good success at it, because I got rid of those people. And that's get rid of them, terminate,
oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
hire, train, teach them right, and you'll go a lot. You'll go further. Your client will go further. Everybody will be happy.
Mm-hmm. What is it? What's the saying? Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
I think they do that anymore. It really starts at the foundation. I know nowadays a lot of people, they're just trying to meet their protocols. So it's the body. They just need the body count. So they don't spend all that time teaching the foundation anymore.
Well, body count to me brings back some different memories.
I was thinking the same thing, but the other thing.
That just shows that different life experiences brings different perception, technology.
That's so funny. Wow.
That's funny.
When generations collide.
How many? That depended on how many years you brought back that day. That justified your body count, if you wanted to. Or sometimes you could throw a lot of artillery in and get some air support and say, I don't know how many we got, but it had to be a lot. So you just reported a certain number, But That's funny. That's funny. Don't use that word again, Cassidy. In the future, if you got military guys, drop the word body count.
Now, I do
No,
have
this
to
is
ask. So, with y'all's background, y'all, I'm gonna see this as that's a memory from that. So, do y'all have different things that pop up memories? Are y'all having that experience? And how long did it take you to adjust when you come back?
In my case, I died on November 12th, 1969, and I spent a year in the hospital. So I was in a coma for a month, and then they put me back in one for a couple of weeks, and I went through a lot. So when I got out, it was different than if you just came back. I knew guys that were in Vietnam, and one day they're carrying an M60, and or they're in a tank, and they get their orders to go home a week early or 2 days early, or they just get them and they're back at, they fly into LA or they fly into El Toro, they get unloaded off the plane and they're out of the military, Marine Corps, or out of the Army at Fort Ord or wherever in 3 days. And the next day they're back in their hometown. And 4 days before that, they were in a firefight killing people or watching their friends get chipped, getting hit. And it was a hard thing to do. I mean, it depends. And then some guys came back, unloaded on the planes, and they went through the thing where people were spitting on them and calling baby killers and throwing tomatoes and eggs and all that crap. A bunch of crap. We shouldn't have put up with that. That should have. No, that's I. And well, anyhow, that's another story. But the thing that I saw that really got to me that I don't know that Chris saw was back like Desert Storm and the early parts of the last 20 years of war we were at in the sandbox is when those guys were coming home and they would land at Atlanta or they'd land in wherever they landed and they'd have people that would go and greet them and thank them and clap for them and everybody's walking through. Man, I mean, we were sending bodies home 350, 400, 450 a week, dead bodies. 3 and 4 and 5 times that were casualties. They didn't have that. What we did in a month in Vietnam, sending bodies home or casualties, injured, they didn't do in 20 years in the sandbox, all put together. So the realization of what we went through is Chris and I are on different terms as far as what, and my son, because he went in considerably earlier than Chris did too, but yet what he experienced is completely different than what I experienced. And some of it's technology, some of it's politics, some of it's location in the world. You guys were hot and dry and sandy and dusty, or cold.
Very different than wet.
Yeah, very different than rain and monsoons for 6, 8 months out of the year, or you're up in the mountains with the Montegards and you are freezing your ass off. It's only 34 degrees maybe, but the humidity gets into your bones. You lube up your Winchester 70, your sniper rifle, or your whatever. It's rusty in 20 minutes. It doesn't matter. So it's a different. It's just different, completely.
Chris, what about your experience? Or when you got home, did you have any trouble?
Yeah, I of course. I think most people probably have trouble. I think that most people just kind of suffer in silence. It was weird.
Yeah.
The first time I came back, it was like a very odd feeling. So like Jay said, they had very different experiences. Because we were treated very differently, which is insane, right? You guys were literally drafted, and they were like, and we volunteered, and they're like, I mean, it's the most backwards shit in the world. So the first time, the 2 weeks were very distinctly odd, where I didn't. You just kind of. I think the word for it is hypervigilance, where you just kind of you're in the group, but you're not there. You're just kind of watching everything going on. Um, and then the second time I came back, I'm not even sure, uh, I'm not even sure that I ever came back. You know what I mean? Like I became a different person through that experience, and since then I've continued to be a different person. So I'm sitting here today. I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago, who isn't the same person as 6 years ago, and that is the person who got out of the army, who isn't the same person who went in 6 years prior to that, active duty. So uh, it's a crucible for change for a lot of people, and it makes a lot of people. It also breaks a lot of people. Um,
Well, and Chris, going in as well, and I've heard this from guys who were in the sandbox that I work with, and the next youngest person is our CEO of a company I'm involved in now and a partner of and investor in. And when Hunter was Special Forces, that's not who the guy I'm talking about originally, but he said, it was like my second and third tours when I went over. I looked at guys, I could tell who was there for their first time because they're going, wow, and the second and third time you're like, okay, wow, same shit, and that's going over and coming back are totally different as well, and
but that's so real, dude. Like when they portray the old grizzled veteran as, the got a cigarette hanging out my mouth, my helmet's off the side, there's an explosion going off in the background, shrapnel coming on my shoulders, and everybody's, oh, and you're like, this is just Tuesday.
have another, yeah,
This is just breakfast.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow. There will be some more.
Yeah, you mentioned drafting. When I went in the Marine Corps was still all volunteer. I mean, we didn't start drafting until I think it was mid '68, mid or late '68. But it was all volunteer, and we were the only ones with serial numbers, and the only ones considered to be military or military property. So we were a military. That's why we had a serial number. Guys who went in the Army, Navy, Air Force, they went on their social. That became their serial number. So mine, was one, and then I was also covert ops in criminal intelligence. So I also had another name. I had another serial number. I had another rank. So even when I was an E5, I might wear, mosquito wings as a PFC and say, oh, okay, and act stupid, even though you've been in long enough. So it was, but you filled in that part. You had to do, you did your job. That was it, but yeah, and it changed a lot. And the one big thing I think that changed the most while we're on this conversation, and I hear this from a lot of guys that have been in the last 20 years in particular, is how the VA has changed compared to when we had it. The VA, you think the VA is bad now or was? It's beautiful. It's perfect compared to what we had.
I have a very good VA experience, but I also recognize how very different it used to be versus how it is now.
Oh,
still got problems, no doubt. It's still got problems.
They still got a lot of problems, and I think.
But at least there's a building for you to go to now, because before there didn't used to be buildings.
Oh yeah, and or actually a little bit of help if you can get it. But they really want to drug you up before they do anything. That's the problem, and I think that's
that hasn't changed.
That contributed. That they didn't drug us as much back in the day because I never went to the VA. I hated the VA. The VA could have burned down and gone to hell, as far as I'm concerned, for 45 years. I'm serious.
I know. There's about 50% of people feel that way.
Well, and on top of that, I should have been at 100% to begin with, easily. They had me at 30. Then I had to fight the PE board to get my retirement, my medical retirement. I don't get paid anything, but there's certain benefits that come along with a retirement or a medical retirement. And so I fought the PE board at Great Lakes and they couldn't believe I was at 30%. They just, and I said, well, hey, that's what they did. I don't know. You're
Well,
talking to,
it's come out that they do that on purpose to
well, yeah.
make you fight it and then hopefully give up.
Well, after the PE board, I had two admirals, a brigadier general Marine, and somebody else signed this paper that went to the VA, an official document through the DOD, and I was supposed to just go to a VA and get my 100%. Finally, well, I got there. It took about 5 weeks, and it ended up that they put me at 70, and I said, what? So I fought it. I fought it from December 1st, 1974, when I retired or got retired, and I didn't get my 100% till September 1st, 1991. 17 years. 17 years.
And that's the thing with all our insurance companies is it's so fragmented. It's become more of a business. Just about with anything that they sell you on, you're going to have to fight it to actually get it. They're going to look for any reason not to give it to you or provide it.
Oh, sure. Well, that's like pharmaceuticals. It's all about the money. That's the problem. But I never got any back pay. I never got anything. My son, when they put him out at 100, and he still, when his pay started coming, it was like at 40. So he had to fight it again for 2.5 years. No back pay, no nothing else. I just like, I'm going to have to mute for just a second here. Maybe I can. I got to, excuse me a second. I don't know how to get off here. Excuse me. I got a dog.
Put it in reverse, Terry.
I got a dog that's trying to get off.
I think we've all had a little technical issues.
Back.
There we go. Sorry. See, I float around like a ghost, because I'm in a wheelchair. It's like, hey, funny. But
I just had an ADD moment now because I lost where we were.
You lost.
Oh, I'll bring it back. We were talking about the pharmaceutical companies and how they're screwing everybody.
I got to be careful on that.
In the doctors. Well,
you're the chief here. I'm just telling you where the bookmark was.
That's right. That's right. That's my experience. So I have to be very careful on that one. I mean, I can say this at least. We used to, as we had people work up, when they went to get their CEO or business, they were medical professionals. But now you can they hire people that's just strictly business to run it. Mm-hmm. And then have people below them, but it's fragmented. And I can't take guesses or assumptions why they chose to do that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Cassidy, it's all gotten much, much, much more difficult. I mean, when I had a 15-hour brainstem surgery where they fused my neck, God dang, almost 35 years ago, 38 years ago, something like that. I signed 2 pieces of paper. Now, if you go in for a pre-op, which is going to be a small op, maybe a scope, you got to sign a stack of papers this thick because of attorneys. So it all just keeps going on. But the military tie into the civilian world, and I think that's the biggest thing, especially. And then Chris, I don't think probably you had or that he had, Cassidy, as much problem as somebody that stays in the military for 20 years or 25 years or 30, because when you get out, it's not just your mindset or your attitude. Well, mindset, not your attitude. Your attitude may be good, but your mindset is different because and your terminology is completely different. It's like being in the Marine Corps. We use a lot of Navy terminology, like your deck, a porthole, all these different words. And
Seaman.
Yes. Don't go there. That's a funny one.
And I'm sitting here, I don't even know what you're talking about. So there you go.
That's why I'm saying it's like a porthole is a window. Okay. A hatch on a ship is a hatch to a Marine is a door. Okay. The deck, that's the floor. The rack, that's a bed. It's just, but when you do that long enough, and I didn't do it that long, and I still call, can you close the hatch? Or, it's just like I don't know. It's just a part of it. I'm still saying Roger that, or Wilco, you know, and that's been 55, 56, 57 years ago. But it's something that
it's like that muscle memory in the brain for
it
words. You
is.
just go through it. I know the one good thing about what I do is, yes, I make mistakes. So, like, the big thing I do is I mess up and say military time, and they're like, what? But I have to learn how to speak the way our profession speaks it and then turn around and speak it in layman terms.
Right, right, and that's what I'm telling Chris is, or mentioning about Chris, that we have to learn the same things too. I didn't have to learn it as bad as he, because Chris, I'm presuming when you got out, I mean, you guys did like 6 or 7 month tours where Army was 12 months in Vietnam, Marine Corps was 13, so it was twice as long, and a lot further away. Matter of fact, it was the next day. It wasn't 7 hours behind or ahead. It was the next day already. So it was the experience was completely different. It'd be like being in Korea for somebody that was in Vietnam. It wasn't 35 below zero, and you're stacking frozen bodies instead of sandbags. So there's a lot of, boy, I haven't talked like this in a while. It's like good to have Chris on there, and your comments or your suggestion or your original words, Cassidy, kind of started it. So where else would you like to take us?
Oh, let's see which direction we can go from here. So, see, in many ways, it's hard for me to do layman terms because okay. If y'all have this experience, relating, like you said, you have a different mindset. So relating to family, relating to the people, your friends that never went, being able to communicate with them, is it completely different? Kind of like you said, you were a completely different person. Like one of my experiences, I tell people all the time, I cannot relate to who I was. So how is that when you're seeing your friends and family again? Do they see that difference?
Chris, go ahead.
You're the guest. I'm not the guest.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll kick it off. I'll
Okay.
soften it for you. Your family absolutely notices, and if you're lucky, they don't say anything, and if you aren't lucky, they do say something. And a lot civilians, people, humans in general, don't already communicate all that well, and then you have somebody who knows nothing about anything tell you something about whatever, and it's off-putting very quickly. I found that I have a light switch, and I would let it get flipped, and it didn't bother me that the light switch was on. And I had people tell me that they didn't like how I spoke to them, or now these weren't every instance in every case, but during those tense moments, you don't necessarily need that kind of violence and intensity with somebody. Now you wouldn't be able to get away with it in the military either, but it still came from the military. That's where it was born, because when Private Snuffy isn't moving, get moving. We got incoming fire. We got trucks to load. We got a convoy that's late. Like there's things that needs to happen, and you're slowing the chain down. So, I think that we also have a responsibility to control our emotions and reactions to people and things. Obviously, we struggle with that a lot. So a little grace is appreciated, but it's not something that we get a lot of, even for all the clapping. A lot of times the clapping is all it is. It's just clapping. And
well, I'm going to jump back on Chris's comments or a little bit towards that direction. Like I say, my experience was different because I spent a year in the hospital. I mean, I was kind of insulated to a large degree, except for some of the other guys that were in my ward. That I ended up being in an orthopedic surgery ward for third-degree burns and everything else. Uh, you saw things come and go, but after a year, I mean, I was a fixture. I was a piece of the furniture. People came and went. A lot of people came and went, and I spent a lot of time. So when I got out, my outlook was a little different, and I came from a multi generational farm outside of a small farm town. So where there was a lot of community, and that's a word that Chris used, Cassidy, and there is no community anymore, or very little, unless you go to small community farm towns, ranches, or something of that nature, because you don't know the person that lives across from you or next to you or above you or below you or down the road from you. Back in my day, you knew everybody or you knew something about them or and you didn't talk negative or you just wasn't mentioned. You know, I didn't know anybody when I got out of high school in 1967. I didn't know anybody was divorced. Not one. Not one. And I've been the best man, I think 9 times now, maybe 10. And only 2 never been divorced, and some of them married 6 and 7 times. You know, and so everything is so much different now than it was then, and that gets back to what the word community that Chris used. But I I know my face was ripped off. My left jaw was coming down. I hit my face was so fractured, 32 facial fractures. I could stick my tongue, run your tongue over the top of your mouth, both of you. It's wide, all the way over mine. And so when I was in my coma, I remember sticking my tongue up into my nasal passage, okay, which they had to reform, you know, wire your jaws. My head was caved in here pretty bad. I don't know how they got it out. Maybe a toilet plunger, but I've had severe TBI, you know, spinal cord injuries, you know, PTSD, multiple, and it took me a long time, but I was very violent. I was very passive, and I was a helper, and I was a doer, and I was an entrepreneur, and I made things work, and I helped people. But if something, and I wasn't a fighter, I was a lover, not a fighter. But the couple of times that I had to, I don't fight to hit the guy or take him down. I want to kill him, and it goes straight to that. It goes straight to eyes, testicles, ears, pressure points. It doesn't matter. The worse, the better. And anything you can get a hold of is a weapon. And that's what I thought. That's what I did. And it took, and I think a lot of that was from what I went through, because when I died, it was a very violent death. Very violent. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's entombed in my brain like it, you know, it's like if I ask Chris, when you start marching, what foot do you start out with? He's going to know, and I know, and yeah, and he's got it, and he's always going to know that. It's like
dude, I march great. I can still march.
Oh yeah, I mean, the other day somebody was going across our driveway. It was one of the kids and a couple other people who was out there, and I said, idle. You know, it's like, I go, what's that? It's a cadence, brother. You know, it's like, you know, but yeah, it's like when you lace your boots, left over right. Until I started having to use Velcro because of my paralysis, I still tied my boots left over right. What's the difference? You got to tie them anyhow. You may as well look uniform and look, you know, look correct. So, but there's a lot out there that coming home was two different things for both of us, 100%. And my coming home was different than it was for guys that got out came back and were out, or came back for a week or 2 weeks and out. It was just a complete, and it was a television war. It was the first war that you could watch on TV, you know, and then they lied to you about it anyhow back then, you know, and so it wasn't good. And I've got a Life magazine up here with my second cousin in it, and he died at Dak To in Vietnam. and early '69, and they had 489 men die that week that we know of. That doesn't include the ones that got injured. I just got back May 10th from visiting. On May 10th, I visited the last living Marine that helped save my life while I was trying to save somebody else's life, another Marine's life, and he passed away on June 30th. And they had his funeral yesterday, and I had tears yesterday. I mean, we didn't reconnect till 10 years ago because he thought I died. He never knew I lived.
Damn.
Yeah, it was tough. It was
Last
tough.
time he saw you was when you got messed up and sent home.
Yeah, well, when he pulled me out of a burning wreck, yes.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
I was dead, and they didn't know it. I mean, they didn't know they ever got me back, and yeah, it's a. And so when we reconnected um, through another Marine that was a 2-star buddy of mine, guy that I went to boot camp with, and he had some connections that were able to find him. And when we did, and I just said, is this, the Walter A. Reeves that helped save my life on November 12th, 1969? And if it is, please contact me at this number. This is not a joke. I'm serious. Thank you very much, Semper Fi. And our first phone conversation, I cried so hard, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak, and it's putting tears in my eyes now because it's just, how do you say thank you to somebody, you know, when he told me when the medics were cleaning him up that the skin hanging from his hands and his arms, he felt was his because everything was so hot. But when they cleaned him up and took it off, it was my skin. It was our skin because they were working so hard to pull us out that they pulled our skin right off. That's a hard thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
thank you for telling us.
And the heroes or angels or whatever you want to call them, but they're there.
Jay, I truly appreciate you telling us your story today and your experience, and I hope to reconnect soon. Chris, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap up a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add your information, your website. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, if they need to purchase any of your information to help them, I will add that down below. This has been The Approach with Jay and Chris, who's going to be one of my potential co-hosts. Just remember your body. Thank you again, both of y'all, for your service. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to The Approach podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode. Be sure you don't miss what's coming next. We're just getting this practice started. Check out the links below to visit theapproach.net. Connect with today's guest, explore their content, discover more episodes and resources, support the podcast, or learn how to become a guest or collaborate. Until next time, thanks for being a part of The Approach.